Station Houston, are you ready for the event?
Yeah, we're ready for the event, Houston.
KPRC TV, this is Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is KPRC TV. How do you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Well, it's so exciting to get to talk to you guys out there. First of all, when are you coming home?
Well, I'm coming home on March 16th, but my two crewmates here, Paulo Nespoli and Katie Coleman, are coming home sometime in May. I'm not sure the exact day.
All right, and what are you looking forward to most when you come home, besides probably gravity, I would assume?
You know, actually, gravity is not something I look forward to, because after being up here for so long, you get used to this microgravity environment, and I'm sure it's going to be difficult and, in some ways maybe a little bit painful getting used to it first. But, things like, friends and family and, things we don't have up here, fresh air and weather, stuff like that I really look forward to.
And I assume also that you'll be looking forward to getting home and being able to talk more with your brother, Mark Kelly. How often do you get to talk to him and get to communicate with him and kind of get an update on Gabrielle Gifford's condition and also him returning now, getting ready for the next space flights?
I speak to Mark practically every day. I would say since the tragedy happened in Tucson, I've probably only missed. There was only a couple of days where, for various reasons, I didn't talk to him on the phone. Sometimes I talk to him more than once a day. Now, at first, I talked to him much more, and also we talk via email a little bit as well.
All right, and what do you think about his decision to return to space?
Well, I think it's a great decision. I think he's clearly very capable of doing the job. I think he's the best person for the job, having trained for it for such a long time. And his family supports the decision. Gabrielle, of course, supports it. Gabby's family, and as well as a lot of our very close friends. So I think and NASA management too, which is very important. So I think it was the right decision to make.
A little bit about daily life there on the ISS.
Well, daily life here is very busy. It's a very large facility, requires 6 crew members now to maintain it, keep it operating, and do all the science we have up here. We have 130 different science experiments running at any given time, and it's a lot of work. So our day consists of doing those things, also exercising, which is very important in the microgravity environment. We exercise generally about 2 hours every day. So, we have very busy days up here.
2 hours a day. Tell us what other effects, I guess, the microgravity environment has since you are experiencing such a long stay there in space.
Well, it has effects on our bone mass, on our muscle mass, although hopefully with exercise those will be mitigated. Certainly radiation is an issue, and for long duration flyers, and the sun and can have events that would cause maybe increased levels of radiation than we would normally see up here on any given day. Fortunately, those don't come around too often. And there's also effects on our immune systems while we're up here. But, we have a very good medical program and a very good exercise program that helps us to mitigate those effects as much as we possibly can.
What about spacewalks? Are there any more spacewalks planned for your time up there and then also the other astronauts as well?
We currently on Expedition 26 do not have any planned spacewalks, although if there was some kind of a contingency, if something outside the space station, one of the components that is critical were to fail, Apollo and I here would go out and do a spacewalk to fix it. We have ULF-5 is the name of the shuttle flight coming up here in a little over a week, STS-133, and they will do 2 spacewalks while they're here. So, and of course tomorrow we have a spacewalk on the Russian segment. 2 of our cosmonaut colleagues are going outside in their Russian Orlan spacesuits to install a couple of experiments and do some other activities outside the space station. So although we're not, the 3 of us aren't doing any spacewalks anytime soon, we're staying very busy with the spacewalks here on board the space station.
Yeah, it sounds like it. All right, quickly before we let you guys go, do you have anything you want to say to people watching at home back here in Houston?
Good morning to everyone back in Houston.
All right. Thank you guys so much, and best of luck. Safe travels back home.
You're very welcome. Nice talking to you this morning.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the KPRC TV portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from the Daily.
Station, this is Daily. How do you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Thanks so much. Hi, this is Elizabeth Saab. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. So I got to ask, how much free time do you guys have up there, and what do you do when you're not working?
Well, during the week we have very little free time. A little bit in the morning, which is mostly taken up by getting ready to work, and a little bit at nighttime, which is, in a lot of ways taken up by getting prepared for the next day and working the next day. But on the weekends we have more free time. Of course, like, maybe in your house where a lot of the housekeeping activities are done on the weekends, we kind of do the same thing up here. So it's not all floating around and looking out the window even on our off time. But when we do have those spare moments, we do spend some time looking out the window, taking pictures at the Earth, certainly talking to friends and family on Earth via telephone and email. And Katie here plays the flute, so she's been spending time playing the flute. I generally just play the portable music player. But, we have things that you do on Earth in your free time we also have up here. I also read a lot while I'm here.
Commander Kelly, we understand that you spoke to your sister-in-law on Sunday. What did she say, and how did she sound?
I don't want to go into a lot of detail. I kind of, just kind of taking the lead from my brother here on, if you go into a lot of detail on that, then people speculate on, the potential outcome of her recovery, which can be, quite variable. But, I asked her how she was doing, and, and I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was something to the effect that I'm good. And, and that was really about it. It was a very brief conversation.
And how do you think your brother will cope up there in space while his wife is back here recovering?
He'll cope very well. I don't think there'll be any difference in his performance based on this tragedy happening. He's a true professional, and I am absolutely certain he will do an outstanding job.
So with your mission that's scheduled to end next month, what do you think the most significant accomplishments that you and your team have accomplished up there on the International Space Station?
We have a suite of science experiments up here, over 130 different experiments operating at any given time. And I could go through a list of them, but what I think is the most significant thing is the fact that this whole facility, this international partnership, is one big experiment itself, and that if as a society, as a planet, if we're going to ever venture away from Earth, we need to understand very well how to live and work in this very hostile environment. Not only with how the people, how we take care of ourselves with the the radiation environment, with the physical effects, but also how the systems behave. We need systems here that scrub carbon dioxide, that provide us with oxygen and water, electricity, and having those systems operate for long periods of time are very, very important to being able to one day allow us to leave planet Earth and venture to further destinations.
And the next question is for Flight Engineer Coleman. With the Space Shuttle program about to end in June, what do you think this means for the United States participation in the future of the space station, and what arrangements do exist with the Russian government to make sure that our American astronauts will still get to get up there and staff the station?
Well, Scott referred to the international partnership up here, and I think that's one of the strongest assets that we have. And I know for a long time, looking into the future, we've already made arrangements to make sure that we have both American, Japanese, European astronauts up here, as well as Russian. And everybody has seats for quite a while in the future. And there's plans for experiments, and the experiments are up here and waiting to be done. So I think for the moment we're set, and people are also looking at the future further out than that, because this facility is just too marvelous and also valuable for just the reasons that Scott mentioned, to be letting it go idle. And I don't see any plans to do that. I see us utilizing the space station in every way we can.
For all three of you, what's next for you guys after this mission?
Well, I'm not sure about my crew members, but I can only speak for myself, and I wouldn't mind flying again someday. Certainly, it's going to take me a little bit of time to recondition myself and get used to living back on Earth again. But someday, I would like to fly another long duration mission, perhaps, if the opportunity presented itself.
Same question for Flight Engineer.
I was going to say, Paolo and I got up here in mid to late December, and I think I'm still in denial about having to come home in May. Right now I'm really excited about living and working up here, and I'm really anxious to see my family and see friends back there on the ground, but I haven't thought much further than that.
And finally, for Commander Kelly, how do you see human manned space flights manifesting itself during the next 10 to 15 years while we wait for the next American launch vehicle and spacecraft for transporting humans?
Well, our plan is to continue to fly and operate the space station until at least 2020. Perhaps, and this is just my speculation, that we could go beyond that. I think the station just certainly has the margin and the capability to do that. Of course, the U.S. needs its own way to get people into low Earth orbit, whether that's a NASA-built vehicle or even a commercial vehicle like we're currently in certain partnerships with certain companies to design and build. We definitely need that. So, it's an incremental approach. Certainly our country has budget challenges, but I think that, with the right plan and, the right money that's committed to a plan, we can still achieve great things in this country, and I look forward to being a part of it.
Thanks so much to all of you. Have a safe flight home.
Thanks for your time.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the daily portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from Newsweek, the Daily Beast.
Station. This is Peter Boyer at Newsweek. How do you hear me?
We have you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Well, thank you. This is very exciting for me. I hope you all slept well. Scott, I hope you slept well on the ceiling.
Yeah, I sleep pretty well up here, better than I do on Earth.
Yeah, I saw a very cool video this morning of your tour of your quarters there. Elizabeth asked a couple of my questions for Engineer Coleman, including all of y'all's feeling about the space shuttle coming to an end. I have one quick question about your return home. I assume you come home on that new Soyuz, right? And I just wonder how if this will be the sort of the first re-entry for that system, how you prepare for that, or do you?
Interesting question. It is the first time that this new Soyuz with a new flight control computer and a new software for that flight control computer will enter the atmosphere. Now, it has the computer has flown on other vehicles, the Progress unmanned resupply vehicles, and of course it's flown on air flight up here, but it will be a demonstration of the first time that it's flown during a entry and landing. So how we prepare is basically the same way you would prepare for any mission. You train very thoroughly in the simulator, and you get very adept at responding to a bunch of different malfunctions that can occur. But we're test pilots, test cosmonauts, and this is what we do. And if there are issues, we'll respond to it as we are trained.
Thank you for that. Scott, I wanted to ask, inevitably, forgive me, just a couple of quick things about your sister-in-law and about your brother's coming mission. First, a dopey question, but how do you get news up there? I know you have the internet occasionally, and you're in constant contact with Houston, but in this particular instance, when it's big news and it's personal news, how do you hear about that?
Well, I heard about the tragedy via the chief of the astronaut office. I was told on a Saturday, not too long ago, that the chief of the astronaut office, Peggy Whitson, needed to speak to me, and they privatized one of the space-to-ground channels. And, when you hear that your boss wants to talk to you and wants to talk to you right now without any heads up, without any notice, then what she has to say is probably not good. So I was expecting some bad news, certainly not of this magnitude. So I was told over the space-to-ground channel, and then Houston continued to give me updates throughout the day. And we also have the capability to watch television up here when we have the satellite available through a meeting, computer meeting type software. So it's not a perfect signal, but it did allow me to follow the events through television news. Also, like you mentioned, we do have the internet, and we also have a phone that when we have the satellite coverage, we can talk to, practically anyone on Earth. So I spent a lot of time on a telephone as well.
I hope that you mentioned television coverage. As you know, it was imperfect in the early hours. I just wonder, did you, as your brother did, go through that brief period when it looked like Gabby hadn't made it?
Well, when absolutely, that was certainly the case. I told my boss, Peggy Whitson, that I wanted to hear whatever the news was reporting, even if it was unconfirmed. So they did. Houston did report to me via a privatized channel that there were unconfirmed reports that Gabby had passed away. So yes, I did hear that.
Thank God her course has taken a happier turn since then. About Mark's mission on 134, I think it is. You have spoken to him about that. I wonder what your sense as an astronaut, what your sense is of the sort of larger symbolic meaning of his taking command of that mission for the nation.
I haven't really given it a whole lot of thought, but I think it shows a certain level of resilience and commitment to duty that not only he has, but many people in our country do. Certainly, there are many people in the U.S. military that have to deal with similar issues and still go on deployments, for instance, for even longer periods of time in times of family and personal tragedy. So I think it shows something about what we're made of, and I think we're going to see that much more with Gabby as we follow her through her recovery. She is a very strong-willed and dedicated person, and I look forward to seeing her and the example that she sets for all of us and how she deals with very, very personal tragedy like this.
Scott, I'll ask a last quick question. You're returning a few weeks before Mark's scheduled mission. This has been a long-duration event, of course. Just out of sheer ignorance, I don't know. How long after such a mission before you can resume normal activity, and do you have any sort of special reunion plans with your family? I know your folks live in the Houston area.
It varies from person to person in the rehabilitation or reconditioning process. I've been very dedicated to the exercise program we have up here, so I anticipate doing just fine. I don't see any issue with me going to my brother's launch. I think even if it was a week later, I'd be able to attend, and I would attend. And as far as reunion with family and friends, I am sure that my brother will be, as well as some other people that are very close to me, at the bottom of the airplane at Ellington Field waiting when I arrive back in Houston.
That's the case. I thank all of you all. Please have a good, safe trip home.
With you today.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the Newsweek, the Daily Beast portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from ABC News.
Go ahead, Bob. Hey, I'm here. It's Bob Woodruff. How are you? Everybody hear me?
We have you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kelly and Dr. Coleman, Mr. Dispoli. I don't know when I start asking questions, but let me know.
Go ahead. Right now would be a great time.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to talk to you up there. I would love to someday fly up there with you, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. So I'll just ask you some questions about what you're going through up there. First of all, in terms of your healthiness while you're up in your health when you're up there in space, what does it feel like in terms of what your muscles feel like, what your bones feel like, what your brain feels like that's different than when you're on the Earth?
As we have a very good exercise program up here, so I actually feel better than before I flew, because I exercised practically 2 hours a day up here, which I exercise on Earth, but not nearly the intensity and the frequency as we do up here. So I think I'm definitely going to return in better physical shape than when I left. Now, certainly there's a readaptation to gravity that will will probably take its toll on me for a few days, if not maybe a week or so. But overall, physically, I feel absolutely great. Mentally, when you first get up here, there definitely is a sense of, being in a little bit of a fog, for lack of a better way to describe it. And I would say after about a month, that's kind of cleared up completely. I think it varies from person to person, but certainly does have some effect on your ability to focus and perform certain tasks. But overall, it's not a bad environment to live and work in.
Dr. Coleman, I know you've done some bone density research. What does that show you about exactly what causes this change in bone density, and what's been the impact on you on that?
Well, I'm part of that research, and then I'm a subject for it. I haven't performed it myself. When we're up here, we lose bone mass about 10 times faster than your average osteoporotic person who's maybe around 70 years old. And we also have pretty clean medical histories, so it makes us ideal subjects for research in osteoporosis, looking at how much bone is lost, what kind of bone is lost, and then actually when we come home, how that bone is rebuilt and in what form, and is it just as good as other bone. In fact, some of us are taking different drugs for osteoporosis to see how they work on us up here, and in a way we just get sort of faster data since it happens so much faster up here. It's pretty interesting, and I think a real important thing that we're doing.
Given the fact that the shuttle is only up for a very short period of time compared to going up to the Soyuz, do we know exactly what would be the limit on how long we could stay up in space in terms of the impact on the muscle, the bone, etc.?
Our exercise program, like I was saying, is very, very good. So we've actually had people come back after a 6-month flight with very little loss in bone and muscle. Although we don't really measure the muscle mass like we do the bone density with a very objective bone scan. So I don't know that there would be a limit on how long we could stay in space based on our loss of bone and muscle, because we do mitigate those. Certainly radiation is a factor, and I think the lifetime limit for a male of my age is somewhere on the order of 1,000 days in space, which is a lot. But, if we had to comply with those OSHA-type radiation standards, I think that would probably be one limiting factor.
After 1,000 days, is a danger of what? Not being able to recover fully when you get back to the Earth, or you just would not survive? What does that mean?
I think it's just a matter of the increased risk of certain types of cancer is, after spending over 1,000 days in space is above a certain government, I think OSHA limits, so we would have a increased risk of cancer. And I guess any bit of radiation probably increases your risk, but that you at that number of days you trip a certain threshold.
I know I haven't done this kind of research. I'm sure you know it, but has there been cases of cancer they believe is caused by time spent up there in space?
I don't know. It's possible, but I'm not an expert on this, and I would have to defer or suggest that someone else at NASA could possibly get back to you with those answers. I'm certainly not an expert in this area.
So when you land over there in Kazakhstan, what does that feel like when you land and the gravity comes back, and what are we going to see when you come down?
I haven't landed in a Soyuz, but I've been told it's pretty exciting. I think it's more like crashing with a parachute above your head. You hit the ground very hard. And the other thing that people have told me is when the hatch is opened, you really get a sense of the Earth, the feel of the air on your face, the smell of the the Earth below you that was recently been kicked up by the impact of your Soyuz in the steppes of Kazakhstan. So it's definitely going to be an experience that I look forward to, and I look forward to getting back. I think.
In terms of as you're coming down, what you see and all that, in terms of what's it been like, scientifically on the impact on your vision because of this change in gravity, your optical parts of your sight. Has there been a change in that? Is there anybody that's been affected by?
I can only speak for myself because of privacy issues, but for me, my vision is definitely affected by the microgravity environment. It was on a short duration flight. It is here. It's I can't see as well, and I suspect and hope that when I get back to Earth, that will.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you, KPRC TV, The Daily Newsweek, The Daily Beast, and ABC News.